What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. I'm Chuck Silver here with Brian Jester. We're about to do a Best Ball Mania 4 draft on Underdog Fantasy as part of the partnership with Occupy Fantasy. Brian, how are we doing today?
Chuck, what's up, bud? What's going on, man? Nice to see you. Nice to do another draft with you. And yeah, I was off the streams for about a week or so, but I'm ready to get back into it. And I've been drafting a lot of my own teams, a lot of slow drafts finishing up. And yeah, it seems since the last time you and I talked, there have been a couple new additions in the underdog lobby. So curious to get your take on them.
Yeah, I think so at first the weekly winners format, I wasn't that excited about it, but um, the more time goes by, I'm pretty excited to fire a few more entries than I was planning. The few people on Twitter have implied that the strategy is different from regular best ball, so I'm curious to see what kind of information they end up coming out with as to why and what adjustments we can make. I haven't drafted a best ball mania team in a couple of weeks. I've been drafting the small ones. All of my slow drafts just finished. I'm down to my last puppy two slow. So
Nice.
excited to jump back in there. I know the ADPs have changed a little bit. See if there's anything meaningful. The Giants guys are just going to keep falling. It looks like a couple of random
Yeah.
guys here. It's not anyone like significant though, right? It's dropping. I mean, Dalton Kincaid, that's expected. Should be lower.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, it's all low end guys, really. Dalvin continues to drop until he finds a team. Do you have a read one way or the other where you think he ends up?
Dalvin, no. I mean, Miami was. They offered him a contract. He didn't accept it right away. So I don't know if maybe it comes down to desperation. No one else offers him a contract. He'll go there. But I mean, the best landing spot for any of these guys is probably the Bengals, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe not for my Joe Mixon exposure, but I don't know, man. I was talking to Chris earlier, and it was like, I, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys that are unsigned, I feel like really they can only mess up value rather than create their own value. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm wrong on a couple of them. I don't know.
No, I agree with that. They're going to muddy up whatever room they go to. All those running backs are going to fall down. But one thing I think I was talking about with Ken on the previous stream was what's the difference really between Dalvin Cook, Zeke, Leonard Fournette? Just we think it's more likely that Dalvin Cook gets signed. Is that it?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I guess he had he looks the least washed of the group, and uh I guess, right? I don't know. The only reason is because he had a higher ADP than all of them because he was originally anticipated to be with Minnesota. So maybe a little bit of anchoring bias there too, where if he was already cut in February, then maybe he
Mhm.
would be down with some of these other guys too.
Right. I mean, 100 pick difference is pretty huge. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Who's moving up? Taysom Hill is moving up. I think that has to do a little bit with the weekly winners. He might be a little bit more valuable in that contest.
Hmm.
This is kind of weird though. Have you been drafting Taysom Hill at all?
No, never, and I never will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not with Derek Carr there, not with adding Foster Moreau, Jawan Johnson's still there. I'll tilt him enough in showdown. I don't need him in my best ball lineups. Yeah, the biggest one that's interesting to me is Tim Patrick, who I guess there's been some positive rumblings out of Denver that they're going to use him a little more. Some even said he's the best receiver
Mhm.
out there right now, which is crazy with Sutton and Judy. I've always thought that Judy and Sutton's ADP should close a little bit,
Mhm.
but maybe Tim Patrick's going to close on all of them. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny because I heard the rumblings about Tim Patrick even a couple months ago, and it affected his ADP a couple spots back then. But I mean, plus 18, and what is this every 7 days? It's pretty. Even though it's
Yeah,
late draft, it's pretty significant. So, um,
I I saw him going around 15 or something yesterday. I was like, wow, people are reaching for Tim Patrick right now.
yeah, it's well, it's July 6th. I think it's like 65 days till NFL season or something. So, guess we'll see.
Yeah, true.
Gonna go ahead and jump in a Best Ball Mania 4 draft. If anyone watching would like to draft along.
How many bullets do you have in there so far?
15. I think
Okay.
10 probably were on stream, and then off stream, I'm usually, like I said before, I like the lower buy-ins, and then I've been drafting a bunch over on the other sites too. It's so funny how good my teams look over there compared to
Dude,
Underdog.
it's crazy. I drafted on drafted. I think I started two on DK yesterday just to get the best ball juices flowing over there and try to max the $10 and spread
Mhm.
out my exposures and yeah, some crazy stuff going on over there.
So before the show started, Brian and I were talking about how I'm looking at my exposures and they are not nearly like I think they're too spread out, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just I'm used to having a little bit tighter of exposures. And on my DraftKings exposures, I have 50% of a couple guys, like 30% of four or five guys. It's a lot easier to
Oh
get my
wow,
guys over there. I mean, granted, I've done way less than 160 drafts over there, so it makes sense
sure.
why I'm more concentrated. But that's one focus that I'm going to try to do over the next 2 months is just like still focus on the correlation, but I need to focus a little bit more on getting my guys. And the problem is my guys change a lot, so hopefully I can nail those down who I really want at the top of my exposures because I'm not very happy with this right now.
Yeah, it's interesting as we wait for the draft to fill. Like, if you and I were saying earlier, if your projections were perfect or you felt like you had the best projections possible, you can be a little flatter. It's similar to those of you who play DFS and you won 50 max, right? The
Hmm.
simulation guys or the ones who play optimally, their exposures generally look a little flatter than the ones who are exploitative or try to take advantage of game theory or qualitative reasons. They'll have larger stands on players, and I kind of feel that we should be looking at that too. However, I guess as I'm saying this, Chuck, the one difference here is if we are stacking heavy, which I am, we're not necessarily reaching for our guys. We're just trying to correlate as much as possible. So I think in
Hmm.
that instance, if you're maximum correlating, I think it's okay to be a little flatter.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like I still stacked and correlated last year, but this year that's like that and ADP value is my primary focus. So that's the reason
Gotcha.
why I'm a little bit more spread out. But we got the are we influencers yet? We got the influencer 101 with Justin
Yes, sir.
Jefferson.
Yes, sir.
So it just the first pick is so much. I think it's so much more powerful this year than in other years. Like the first pick is always the best pick, but getting these two running backs if they're there in rounds 2 and 3 to me is so good with Justin Jefferson because we're still getting elite receivers in the fourth and fifth round. Grab whatever quarterback Kirk Cousins falls to 120 pretty regularly now. So
Yep. No, I agree. And speaking of the influencer benefits, I'm looking at my exposures now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. I have five guys, 19% or higher, and then I have five or six more, 17% or higher. And Justin Jefferson is one of those 17%. That's how often I've received a first or second or pick so far through 50 something drafts.
that's a very, very good thing. I have about 15% Jamar Chase, and I'm just so excited about it. I never take
Right.
him at the one. Justin Jefferson is my number one pick every time. I've just ran so good with the number two pick or people
Right.
taking anyone but Chase at two. I wasn't initially super high on Chase. Now I am because, he's my most exposed elite receiver. So,
Love him now.
yeah.
God. I'll throw some of the names out there that I'm most exposed on so far. Again, this is through 50 drafts. And first one is Mike Gesicki.
Mhm.
Chuck, thoughts? I'll just say the name. You give me thoughts.
He's my sixth highest tight end. I think I wasn't drafting him that much before. I was on Hunter Henry, but now I'd like Gasecki makes sense. One of the best late round tight end picks, right?
Yeah, I think so. And not that we needed confirmation, just because he was used incorrectly in Miami. We get word that as soon as OTA started, that he's running out of the slide and basically working with the receiver. So love that pick. Kenneth Gainwell,
Yeah.
who I think actually got the Evan Silva bump recently, but he's a guy that I don't think they're going to use a bell cow back, no matter signing Penny or trading for
Mhm.
Swift. Right? Gainwell still has trust in the from the coaching staff, and I think he's still going way too late. And I love clicking him when I need a fourth or fifth running back.
Yeah, my highest exposed running back by a few percent, and I think he was at the he's up 5 ADP spots over the last week, so other people are catching on to that too.
Oh, nice. All right, we're on the same page so far. My first two guys are 22% owned, and the next is Cooks and Addison. I'm not even that big on Brandon Cooks. I just think that uh, the correlation I've sought after so far has needed a Dallas player, and then it drops off from Cooks to Gallup pretty heavily. So I think that's why I'll say I'm not that big on Cooks, and then Addison pretty much fell into a great spot as a rookie. So I don't mind that one, but Cooks is the one that I'm kind of on the fence about.
Addison, I like, but he's not going to be one of my highest exposed just because there's a few other guys in that range that I'm also getting to. And then Brandon Cooks, he was, I think, my second or third biggest lean last season on Houston. And then now, I don't know. I'm having a tough time getting to him. Before he went to Dallas, I was clicking on him a bunch. But yeah, from Dallas, I'm really only getting CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard, I think.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. I haven't been able to get those guys as much, so I think I'm settling, quote unquote, settling for Cooks and correlation. So, yeah, not thrilled about it, but I will balance that out
I think I
the
do
more
like the
these drafts
Dallas.
go.
I think I like the Dallas offense more than most. So, like, I believe in Dak, and especially I believe in CD.
Yeah, I guess the biggest issue is Kellen Moore's gone. So, what does that offense look like? Are they going to be slower and more run heavy? So,
Mm.
who the hell knows? More interestingly, though, my two highest exposed quarterbacks, and they're tied, is Kenny Pickett, who we've talked about at length, and Mac Jones, who's basically free.
Yep. Kenny Pickett, I'm actually surprised I don't have more of, but he's great late round pick. I have a lot of elite tight end. Are you going? Are you going a lot of elite tight end?
Let me see here. Not necessarily, right? If I get Kelsey, obviously I'm taking him. I think Andrews is the one I'm targeting the most, but I have a lot of Hawkinson too, just because of. I think the reason I have a lot of Hawkinson and Addison is because I've been fortunate enough to get Jefferson so often. I'm just correlating with those guys.
I like it. Well, we're going to be on the clock here in a second. What do you usually do when you have the 1-1?
I'll take Higgins for the correlation if the Chase guy doesn't take him.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. Hold on. And then, yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? So I think this is also why I'm getting Pickett a lot because they have the correlation of week 16
Mm-hmm.
with Cincinnati, and yeah, I don't know. So really, I'm just taking best player available for the most part, unless I get
Mm-hmm.
Higgins.
Okay. Well, for me, my favorite pick in this range has been Ramondre, and then it just depends if I want to go with one of the elite quarterbacks or Derrick Henry or Josh Jacobs. I guess. What do you want to do today? I'm cool with
I
any
mean,
of these three picks.
yeah, I love Stevenson, and I don't know how I feel about the elite quarterbacks. I know they offer a huge edge. I haven't been taking them as much as I probably should.
Mm-hmm.
So uh,
Uh,
I don't know. I don't know if I want to influence you and go super late round quarterback on this one.
Well, we went with Derrick Henry. A lot of the time when I get this start, I am going Justin Jefferson and Ramondre, and I think I'm picking Josh Allen a lot because of that Week 17 correlation with Ramondre. So I mixed it up a little
Mm,
bit when went with Derrick Henry. He's one guy I don't have as much as I'd like to. Like I don't want to be super over on Derrick Henry, but
right.
I think he probably could be a pretty good value. I mean, something about his career carries up to this point are so much less than a lot of other players, a lot of other elite running backs in the past. And so maybe he doesn't have as much wear and tear on his body. Maybe they just have to run the ball 30 times a game like they have been.
Yeah, I mean, we're also excluding the 500 carries he got his senior year of high school, which
Mm,
uh, legendary workload his senior year.
500, 500,
Uh,
huh?
Let me see. Hold on.
It's like 50
Uh,
carries a game.
it was nuts, dude. They just. I think the coaches really wanted a state championship.
Mm.
I'm gonna tell you. Have you seen his high school stats? They're insane.
No, I probably haven't.
Okay, hold. All right, hold tight. Senior year. All right. He's first of all, he set a Florida high school single game record with a 510-yard performance
Not
in
bad.
one game. Yeah, decent. All right, here we go. If I can find. Okay, so I wasn't. It wasn't an exaggeration. His senior year of high school, in 13 games, he had 462 carries for 4,261 yards and 55 touchdowns.
Four. That's like 10 yards a carry.
Yeah, roughly 10 yards a carry. I mean, I was. It's funny. I was talking with a friend about this the other day. It's like imagine just like having to tackle Derrick Henry and then you have to go home and like do your social studies homework. Like that's what people were doing on Friday nights against Derrick Henry.
Right. Kids that are going to be done playing football after this season.
They were done after playing him. They're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
Um, I will say one thing about picking Derrick Henry here is if you need a second or third quarterback, CJ Stroud gets Tennessee twice in the playoff weeks and
Mhm.
incredibly cheap to stack.
Yeah, the have you been getting to CJ Stroud and Bryce Young a lot? I know you're taking
I
Kenny
have,
Pickett in that range, but okay.
I have actually, yeah. I don't mind just because they're so cheap, right? And if I'm not taking a lot of the stud quarterbacks early, naturally I'm going to do that. But Stroud and I have a little bit more Bryce Young, but pick pick whoever you want of their pass catchers and you get them. So
Right. I have about twice as much Bryce Young as I do CJ Stroud, 6% versus 11%.
it's
So
roughly my breakdown too.
nice. Nice. That's one thing with quarterbacks. I expect to be more spread out at quarterback because,
True.
stacking, we're not going to get the receiver every time, but the other positions, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe be heavier on the positions. The one thing I have to rectify is I have 2% Lamar Jackson, so I have to get more of him.
Yeah, man, that's one miss that I like a bad miss by me. I have 5%, so it's still, I'd like to be above the field on him.
Yes, and so just start reaching and hammering Baltimore stacks for. And the thing is, right? Like even if you don't get Andrews, very affordable to pick whoever you like out of Bateman, Zay Flowers, and Odell a couple rounds later. Plus, God forbid something happens to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely could win somebody $3 million as a
Hmm.
17th or 18th round pick.
I've been adding Isaiah Likely as my third tight end on some builds where I think the first two are okay if Isaiah Likely doesn't play most weeks, but he'll still
Yep,
play alongside Andrews, right? He's just not going to get the
I would
targets he
think
was
so.
getting, but
Yeah, but he's one of the only true tight end handcuffs. It's crazy.
right. Those two
So what do you think
receivers
about now?
about my next pick. I usually go
Yeah,
always go receiver here unless I can go DJ Moore and Justin Fields, and I'll take that pretty much every time.
interesting.
Like I didn't think I was this high on DJ Moore, but he's my second highest receiver after Juju. And so after I'm done, like I haven't drafted Juju in like 3 weeks, and he's still my highest receiver. So I don't know if I want
Hmm.
DJ Moore to be my highest guy though, but like I'm okay
Yeah,
with having him a bunch. But for my number one owned receiver, it's kind of uncomfortable.
right. So it's funny you say that because this morning in our co-founders group chat, which everyone knows Moose, but if you've been around for a long time, our viewers will know Waleed, who was one of the original co-founders. He plays a lot of high stakes season long stuff, and he actually texted us this morning. He's like, "What do you guys think about DJ Moore?" And my answer was, I don't really have a take on DJ Moore. It's just that everything I've read says his ADP is too high.
Hmm.
Everyone's opinion is his ADP is too high, yet his ADP hasn't dropped.
Hmm.
So there's definitely some pushback somewhere.
Yeah, it's like the other guys. Like, I've seen tweets every single day. This guy's undervalued. Deontay Johnson is undervalued. Well, he's still going. It's pick 60. I mean, he has come up, but you know, a lot of guys like that. Um, so let's see. Like that's the thing. Like DJ Moore is just always there when at a good pick.
Yeah.
So I just click on him. I'm taking Mike Williams a bit more too, but I'm not sure about that one.
I think the other guy I'm taking more and he continues to fall, which I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, is Michael Pittman.
Hmm.
And I'll let you make these picks and then I'll talk about a study I saw.
Yeah, he's down to pick 64. That's pretty. I mean, who would you go with here? I already know who I'm gonna pick. For me, this is automatic, but
Is it more Fields? Is that the automatic for you?
yeah. I would consider Christian Kirk, but you know what? It's funny. I said that. I actually didn't notice Fields was there. I was going to go DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. Um, yeah, I'm just going to go DJ Moore and Justin Fields. Like I'm on the elite QB train. I think Justin Fields is good. I think he can get better. Even if he does what he did last year, it's not a disaster. So, have
True.
you been taking Fields much? Sounds like you're not that in on him.
Let me see here. I've definitely taken him some. I took him a decent amount early.
Hmm.
I'm at like 5%, so nothing crazy or outrageous, but that's kind of where I've been on a lot of these league quarterbacks.
Okay. Well, I'm
Um,
gonna go with Justin Fields. Lock it up. Hopefully, Kyle Pitts is there at my next pick. If I can get a that Week 17
mm,
run back with Atlanta, that's pretty nice.
it is the very first stream for Underdog. Chris and I did. We laughed about, all right, let's turn everyone off by taking Chicago Atlanta stacks, and we actually did that in the very first draft just naturally. And
Hmm.
so I feel like we're doing it again here. But again, I agree with it. It's easy correlation, and um, Yeah, I mean, you figure this time last year, Pitts was going what round 3 or 4, right?
Yeah, he was going around Mark. I remember I picked Pitts over Mark Andrews a few times. Not that Mark Andrews
Mhm.
necessarily worked out either, but at least he was on track to working out before he stopped playing.
True, true. Uh, but anyways, it was uh, so for those of you who know JJ Zacharyson, former number fires, lateround.com. He and I are good friends, and his newsletter pointed out something interesting the other day about RPOs and running quarterbacks. Have you seen this study, or have you seen these tables or
N-
images?
no, I haven't.
All right, so basically, I'll summarize it really quickly. It's basically saying that uh, so looking at the last 4 years, right? It says during this 4 year sample, 18 teams have run the ball 80 or more times with their quarterbacks while hitting an RPO pass rate of 10% or more, right? So 10% of their pass attempts come from RPOs. And for those who don't know much about football or don't know about the X's and O's, RPO, run pass option, you can hand it off to the running back, or linebackers come up, you throw it behind them to the designated target, right? Meanwhile, so 18 teams, 80 more times rush with their quarterbacks, 10% RPO rate or higher. And then we had 9 teams, 80 plus quarterback rush attempts, and an RPO rate below 10%. So both of those subsets, they saw a bunch of quarterback rushing attempts. The big difference was one ran RPOs at a high rate, the other ran RPOs at a low rate. And the teams who had the high RPO rates ended up with multiple 20% target receivers at double the rate compared to the teams who had lower RPO rates. So I think the high level fear about taking receivers from rushing quarterbacks is the quarterback runs, there aren't as many targets to go around, things like that. But in the RPO offenses, because they're such designed reads for the first and second options, that those receivers actually end up with a higher target share than those on running quarterback teams who don't run high RPOs. And Pittman's a guy who's going to have the offensive coordinator from Philly, where they ran just a shit ton of RPOs with Jalen Hurts. You know that they had Devonta Smith and AJ Brown high target share. So I saw that and it just kind of reinforced my decision to keep drafting Michael Pittman, even though he's getting the rookie quarterback treatment with Anthony Richardson.
That's pretty interesting. I don't think I was necessarily out on Pittman, but I wasn't. I certainly wasn't in on Pittman. But with his ADP falling, that's definitely some good stuff to consider. Like, I don't know if I'm thinking too much about it, but is this like was did it go even further in depth on where the guy lines up, inside or outside?
It did not, but I think ideally you would think that inside would be better, right? Just quicker
Yeah,
read.
yeah.
Uh, but I think most of the target share receivers were outside receivers. I could be wrong,
Okay,
but the study didn't explicitly say that.
okay. It's pretty interesting. Are you drafting Anthony Richardson to pair up with Michael Pittman when you take him?
I've tried to, yeah. I think Richardson is has a chance to break fantasy football, so I think you
Okay,
have to take some shots.
okay. Yeah, another guy that I'm not necessarily in on. It's just tough for me to click on him because I like the other quarterbacks more. But yeah, there's a few. Like I said, like I'm too flat already in my exposures, and I'm saying, well,
Right,
maybe I need to get up a little bit more on these guys, like even just to 6, 8%, whatever.
right. Who are you most underweight on at quarterback?
I have zero. Justin Herbert.
Ooh, that feels
Very,
bad, right?
it feels bad, especially I'm seeing all this stuff about how good the Chargers offense is going to be overall.
Yeah, that's
And
what. Yeah,
but I don't know. I just it's a mental block. I had it since last season. Last season I was kind of right to fade him, but I'd be shocked if he didn't have a year closer to his rookie season.
true. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's he's tough to get to unless you go in with a plan. I need to get Justin Herbert this draft. It's like a weird spot to take him.
Yeah, it just like I said, I'm getting to Mike Williams a little bit more, and I'm okay taking Keenan Allen if I need a receiver. But I guess this guy was able to pair him up with Justin Herbert, but like I haven't had the opportunity to stack him with Mike Williams or Keenan Allen too often. I'm sure I did in the beginning when I was just completely avoiding him, but now, like if I had the opportunity, I would do it because I have literally zero of him.
Yeah, it's funny because the times I have taken Herbert have been this kind of setup where this guy in the 9 spot, or you take Eckler first, and then you come back with the Chargers receiver in round 3 or 4, and then Herbert in round 5.
Yeah, and then kind of the same with Trevor Lawrence. Like I believe he can make a jump, but I'm
Hmm.
still having trouble selecting him.
Same. Totally same.
Who are your guys here?
6 and 7. Let's see. If I take, let me see. Sorry. I mean, I'm typically getting Addison here to pair up with if you hadn't taken Fields, right? I take Addison or Hawk in the previous round to go with
Mhm.
Cousins later. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough here. I've been taking Tony here a little bit
Mhm.
early too if I need the Kansas City correlation, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, let me see. Let me look at who you got queued up here.
I might just take Darren Waller. Like I usually always want another receiver, especially if I took two running backs early and an elite
Mm.
quarterback. But I don't love any of these receivers.
It feels like they're all being overdrafted. Like they're being drafted for their ceiling, not for their median outcome.
I agree. Like Traylon is a guy I had trouble getting to. I finally started taking him a bunch, but then his ADP jumped a couple spots.
Yep.
Like Cam Akers, I'm interested in, but I already have two running backs. DeAndre Swift, we talked about, I'm interested in, but I already have two running backs.
Montgomery's ADP has jumped a lot too, right?
Yeah, he was definitely late 80s, at least a few weeks ago, and I mean he was over 100, I think, when the contest
Hmm.
opened or when Big Board closed or something, and like he's him. And
Yeah,
are you still pretty high on James Conner?
I am. I'm just gonna keep clicking him, I guess, because he hasn't really moved much. So I'll keep clicking him, and because I was more interested in Dave Montgomery a round or two later, or whatever it was. So if they're gonna be even up now, I probably prefer Connor.
Yeah, I think Connor. He's my fifth highest. I have 17%, so I'm still pretty high on him.
Nice. I mean, it's a good spot.
Yeah, and I'm apparently Kyler. I have the most exposure to the Arizona offense out of every team, and so like I said, I'm scooping up the value, but half my teams could be in a very bad spot halfway through the season if I just
I feel you.
stuff. Well, hopefully we can take a good hopefully a couple good receivers fall to us at 96, 97. So I feel better about this receiving room. Like when Gabe Davis is my third receiver, don't love it.
Yeah, I feel that too. Um, in rounds like 8 through 14, basically, what positions are you taking? Because sometimes I do find myself ending up skimping on running back, particularly,
Mhm.
and then taking guys in that game well, Gus Edwards, Chuba Hubbard range. And I don't know if that's right or not. And even taking some 18th round running backs when it feels like their upside is there, but the chance of them contributing is very low. Whereas you take a tight end whose chance of contributing is pretty high over the course of 18 weeks or 17 weeks. So, do you have any takes on where to start or where to stop taking some positions?
Well, so I'm flip flopping on tight end. Like I like elite tight end, but I'm also going with that strategy of late round tight end three and like maybe the last 5 rounds or so. With running back, it's tough because I'm finding myself so overexposed, not necessarily overexposed, but I'm drafting like two or three of maybe this Jarek McKinnon or we'll call it the Tank Bigsby to Ty J
Yeah.
Spears range, maybe Chubu Hubbard range. I'm getting like three of these guys in some drafts, and it feels like too much. Like if I have a two stud running backs like Ramondre and Derrick Henry, maybe it's not as bad. But on the teams where I'm going zero RB and I'm depending on two of these guys in this range to play,
Yeah.
it can end up being terrible. It could end up being great if for whatever reason they end up being the starter, they get more workload, whatever. But I think a lot of the time it's just going to end up burning me. But it's like I need to hit on one or two of these guys. Is that enough?
Yeah, I know that's rhetorical because I don't know the answer, but
Yeah.
I find myself doing the same thing. Like Tank Bigsby, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert, like all those guys in that range. I would much, honestly, if I had my way, which I certainly could. And like I'm the one I'm doing the draft, so I don't know why I couldn't. But like ideally, I would just have four running backs by like round 10 or 11, and I would have. I'm high on Javante, right? Like after Javante is where it kind of drops off for me. But like, I guess like maybe the Buffalo and Washington running backs too. But like, I have those be my final running backs. Like, I would be very content with a four running back build where I have like two running backs from rounds 1 through 6, and then two running backs from like rounds 7 through 11 or whatever it is.
I have a couple 4 running back builds. I think in all of them, I took 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds. Just tried something different. It's only
Interesting.
a couple percent of my builds, but I want to see how it went. Didn't go great because my receiver sucked, but
Yeah, I mean, like this group you have up on screen, right? Like Charbonnet, I'm huge on. I think he
same.
could be a league winner. So I love Charbonnet here. Uh, I think we being the fantasy community likes Antonio Gibson more than the coaching staff does.
Hmm.
But all these types of guys in this range, I'm willing to take as my fourth guy.
Kind of disappointed Jamison Williams ADP jumped up. It's kind of surprising to me.
I know I was hoping with like all the gambling suspensions that people would be a little weary, but I guess he learned his lesson.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm definitely taking Tyler Boyd because I need a receiver and I don't want to take Jamison. Don't really want to take any of these. I might just go with Javante.
Are you high on Javante?
Not necessarily, but you mentioned him right now, and usually I'd just be clicking on Charbonnet here, so at least this mixes it up a little bit.
Okay.
You think
In
he starts week
Cincinnati.
one?
All reports are pretty optimistic. It sounds like so far, still early, obviously, but I think all reports are pretty optimistic. And even if he's not, I mean, he's pretty good. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, last year my biggest miss was Melvin Gordon because I was trying to force that Bengals. Wait,
mm,
no, the Broncos Chiefs correlation for Week 17. So I took Melvin Gordon in this range every single draft. I had like 35% of him, and I was super low on Javante. But
well,
Javante was going around pick 30 last year, so
right. And here's the thing: you just ended up with Casey's super stacks, even though he never played because Melvin Gordon actually ended up on the Chiefs by by week
uh,
17.
yeah, right. Just give him a
Yeah,
couple carries.
right, dude. Yeah, that's rough. Um, yeah.
I forgot about that too because it's funny. Like I get all this hope, like oh maybe he'll get the carries because they don't necessarily have a number one guy in Kansas City, but no,
Nope. Nope.
no.
Absolutely not.
So we did see a little running back run here. I think these running backs, I'm very comfortable taking 2 of these guys if I have the opportunity in some teams.
To be in this range here.
Yeah, just like the
Yep.
receivers. Like we mentioned, we like Sutton. I like Boyd. I do like Zay Flowers and Bateman, but the running backs probably add more points um, at this point.
Wow, definitely a running back run there. That's crazy. The one I like the least is Rashad Penny. Like I think you and I
Hmm.
even talked about it last time. It could be a
Yeah.
surprise cut, but um, I don't know, man. I mean, Dylan, I like. I just like the player. Gibson is theoretical upside. I don't know if it's practical upside, but Charbonnet, like we said, is easy. The top guy in this range.
I like how you said that theoretical upside.
Yeah, we don't. I don't know if it'll ever actually come to fruition, but on paper has some upside.
Yep.
So now that you have, so I wanted to ask you this. So you took Waller round 7.
Hmm.
Generally, when you take a tight end in this range, whether it's Pitts or Waller or whoever, what does your tight end build generally look like after that?
It depends on the correlation. I think I'm ending up with Waller Higby a lot. Get that week 17 correlation. And if I have those two, depending on how the rest of my roster looks, like here, I'm probably going to want to tack on another receiver. So maybe I'll stop at 2 tight ends. Yeah, if I get like Higby or even Schultz or Everett, I'm probably not going to take one of these guys that early, though. I probably just wait. And depending how the draft goes, I'm probably going to end up with 2 more late round guys.
Okay.
I'm not sure. It's kind of like draft like you're right, and I'm drafting Darren Waller at this price because I think he's a value because I think he plays and I think he's really good. And so, do I really
Yep.
need to take 2 more tight ends?
Right. That's the thing. So, um, and if he's hurt, you're probably not winning anyways. But I don't even know if that's true though, because maybe you hit on the late round tight end. I don't know, because I think there are a couple of guys that are even going 17, 18 that could be top 10 tight ends if the tight end has a down year again. Like Jake Ferguson, if
Hmm.
he's the number one tight end in Dallas. I'm still big on K Dot. I know it should be a dumpster fire offense, but like he should be the number one tight end and should get a bunch of checkdowns and 2 minute drill and garbage time points. So I think there are a couple guys in that range that you can take that can contribute a lot of weeks, surprisingly.
Yeah, they're like I've talked myself into pretty much every tight end here.
Yep.
like you can find a reason to take any of me. I'm even getting down to Robert Tunyon a couple times.
I mean,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be. I mean, we got the reports of a couple weeks ago. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if he outproduces Cole Kmet, and Cole Kmet's going, 5 rounds earlier or whatever it is.
yeah. I'm not touching Cole Kmet at all for as much Justin Fields as I have, even when I miss on DJ Moore.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I know you mentioned Waller Higby. Is it wrong, bad, good, indifferent to take two tight ends playing against each other in week 17 or any of the weeks, considering the fact that generally you're only using one roster spot, one starting lineup spot on them?
It's probably slightly negative. I haven't seen any numbers for it, but I would guess it just there's a slight negative correlation, right? Kind of similar to taking two quarterbacks with the
Yeah.
same 17 game. So I'm not sure. I guess
Okay.
like it's just a default just because of the easy correlation at that point. But and I think Higby is just one of the better picks in this range.
Agree.
But Schultz could be a good one here though, since we have Derrick Henry.
Oh yeah. We'll get the Houston correlation, and if you wanted to take Stroud later, you can.
Yeah, this is like I like Damian Harris. Grab Damian Harris and be done at running back.
I'd be fine with that.
You like Dubs over Zay Jones?
I think so. I think I do.
I'm not sure if I do, but I'll do it this time for the Justin Jefferson correlation.
True. Okay, that's fair.
I'm pretty down on Green Bay, but I've seen some things that make me think I'm a little too low because the public's pretty low on them. And if, this is part of where we have an edge drafting this early is just, predict things that the public doesn't, I guess. If we think Green Bay is going to be better and they're too low, then we should be drafting them a little bit more, but it's really
I
tough.
agree. Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously Watson's going early, and then Aaron Jones, but I think Love has underwhelmed in enough starts that people don't want to touch it. But it's only been a couple starts, right? So
Hmm.
I was still pretty high on Love coming out of college, and they thought highly enough to keep him as a starter with no competition this year. So I I'll trust the front office there, and I think Green Bay is probably valued.
It's like what we've been saying, like we like Antonio Gibson more than his coaches do, but the coaching staff, they know more than anyone talking about this stuff here, right? So
Yeah, I
listen
mean, I
to
saw.
what they say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the assumption of rational or irrational coaching. So you know, you just got to do what they're telling you, not what you think they should
Hmm.
do. It's a big difference in fantasy football. And um, it's another example. I think I saw it on Twitter actually today. Was the Miami running back situation?
Hmm.
Devin, did you say his last name? Is it Akane? Akane?
I've been saying it different every time, a Kane or a Kane. So I don't know. I haven't heard anyone else say it.
I will say Devin A. It could even be Devon A. I don't even know. This is a very professionally run show right now. But the Miami rookie running back who they took on day 2, right? Like, if you look at prospect models or historical comps, probably not a guy you'd be willing to click.
Hmm.
But Miami is willing to give this guy a shot, and they're telling us that they think he can be a big part of their offense. So who are we to say that that's wrong?
Hmm. Hmm. No, I agree. Kind of similar to, I guess not really similar, but like Jameer Gibbs. The coaching they
Yeah,
took him.
same
He
shit.
was
Yeah,
he was a top 12 pick, right? Like regardless of what they say, being a top 12 pick says enough. That
yes,
he's good at football. We are going to play him.
yeah. Like, no matter what you think about his size or what backs historically have his size have done, there haven't been backs that have been drafted in the top 12 at that size. So you can just throw all that shit out the window because it's a whole new
Hmm.
frontier.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
I saw some stuff about, and again, it's probably too small a sample to really draw conclusions from, but most running backs picked in the top 12 in the NFL draft have good rookie seasons.
yeah, it's just, it's self fulfilling to a point to where the teams are like, we use them. We took him this highly. We're going to use him,
Hmm.
and they're pretty good at evaluating which running backs are good. So you have that perfect storm of opportunity and talent, and there are very few misses. I mean, even Trent Richardson, who turned out to be a bust, got a shit ton of touches his rookie year, right? And I
Hmm.
think was viable even in his rookie years. So
just a question of the other. Like, I'm not taking Jameer Gibbs that much, but I'm again another guy I'm not necessarily out on. I don't know, taking these other guys around him. Brandon Ayuk has come up too much. I think this is too high.
Agree. Totally agree.
Um,
You got enough exposure to him anyways, right? Before the move.
Unfortunately, yeah, but I loaded up when he was still late 50s, so I think my average ADP on him was like 57 or something. So I'm okay with that. I'm not taking him as much now.
Yeah, I mean that's really nice when you can get that kind of edge.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd like to go into on these shows one of these days. Spike Week finally made the update I was waiting for, where I could break down just my overall exposures, not including the big board, because before it was all jumbled together,
Mhm.
so the ADPs were a mess. But now I can really go in and see. All right, I have 40% elite tight end, 50% elite quarterback. My most exposed week 17 stacks are this and this. And so it's a lot of
That's
fun
cool.
stuff you can really get in there when you have a lot of drafts, a lot of stuff to look at.
Yeah, that's
Well,
interesting, right? Like, yeah,
I was just gonna. Should we take a? I really want a receiver, but I'm not taking Thielen. I might take KJ Osborne. I think I'll take Dalton Schultz so I can be done at tight end,
I like that.
and then KJ Osborne or MVS.
KJ Osborne feels like a better football player, even in
We'll
Detroit.
go with KJ Osborne. I think he's
Staying in
my
Detroit.
he's my fourth highest exposed receiver.
Um, so so you don't have any Detroit players, right? Not that matters
No,
right now.
no.
Um, but here this is a concept that maybe our viewers wouldn't use as much, right? Like you didn't take Kirk Cousins, but you
Mhm,
still correlated Justin Jefferson, and now you're adding KJ Osborne.
mhm,
So basically, you have these 2-1 stacks, Minnesota plus their opponents outside of Detroit in week 16, 17, 18. So just 17, or sorry, 16 and 17. So it's the equivalent of game stacking. They're just without the quarterback. So you can have a quarterback that outscores Cousins and that game still goes off, or Cousins goes down and Nick Mullins comes in and still leads to a high scoring affair in those weeks. So I
mhm.
still like game stacking when you can't get the quarterback.
Yeah, especially like these two guys specifically in this offense. Like KJ Osborne was a stud in the playoffs last season. If he has similar opportunity this year, because the idea is something like maybe Justin Jefferson's a bad example, but this guy goes off week 15, this guy gets a touchdowns week 16, and then you have both of them available in week 17, where most of the field is only going to have whoever went off in week
Yes.
16, right?
Yeah.
So it creates a little bit of leverage. Again, I don't know if this is the best example because the difference between these two is probably as big as you can get. But
No, but I understand your point.
so we're probably going to end up grabbing. I think we're done at running back and tight end. Like Javante has me a little nervous. Maybe I should have went Charbonnet here, but this is still fine for like they all have different bye weeks.
Yeah.
This is good.
Will you take just two quarterbacks with Fields?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
most of the time. Yeah, I think he's good. I'm gonna draft like I'm right. There's times where I've had to take three because I'm not paying attention. Like I think Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins have the yeah, Kirk Cousins has a week 13 bye. So other times I've done this, I've taken Kirk Cousins and not realized
Yeah.
that I need to draft a quarterback and get Sam Howell or Desmond Ritter or something in the last round.
It's so gross to have to do that, but yeah. So
Yeah,
so in this build you'll have 2, 4, 10, 2.
it looks like it. Yeah, this might be the first time I've had this build, but innovation wins contests or something.
True. I mean, I can't imagine it's a very highly drafted construction. So
No, and here's the thing: like you've seen the posts. I think is it is his name JJ Hernandez? TJ Hernandez.
TJ Hernandez, yeah.
He posts a lot of the roster breakdowns of what's been successful in the past tournaments, and you'll see like, okay, this roster build is the most, has the highest expectation over average, and then this whatever. But it's not breaking down like the draft capital. So even if you see a roster build
Yes.
that has a negative expected advance rate based on past contests, you can still draft those builds, and you'll have a different build as long as you draft it properly in terms of allocating the draft capital. Then you can draft the builds that have negative expected advance rate. Especially if you're watching this show, if you're paying attention, you probably draft better than most of the public.
Yes.
And so don't
Yeah, I
try
mean,
to do it, but yeah.
Yeah, like a four running back build using four running backs in the first 8 picks is way different than a four running back build that
Hmm.
completely punts the position, right? And
Hmm.
in those types of roster construction advance rate charts, they're lumped into the same group when in reality they're actually, despite the number being the same, the constructions are actually completely different.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
exactly. Like here, running back, we're good. Wide receiver, the hope is Justin Jefferson is in here every single week. DJ Moore is in here most weeks. Gabe Davis, you know, I
behind him
think
32
I'm
games.
like this team has a path to getting there, right? Maybe Dalton
I
Schultz
think so.
fills in the flex a couple times.
All right, so who are you thinking here?
This is gross. Probably Curtis Samuel. Like those receivers, there's no one here.
Yeah, well, at least you get the two times a season correlation with Darren Waller,
Right.
the
Um,
theoretical correlation with Curtis Samuel.
the theoretical correlation. It's one of these correlations we talk about is gonna, work out in a big way, and we're
Hmm.
never gonna remember what we said on these streams, but it's a little victory lap. This
We'll
is
well, I'll let you pick, and then I'll tell you
this
what I was going to
is
say.
this is disgusting. Tim Patrick at 169. I don't think so. Do we
Come on,
take Tim Patrick?
contribute to that ADP climb.
Yeah, he's a cover boy. Like I don't love any of the other
Oh yeah, I
picks.
think we have to. Okay. Yeah. All right, we have to.
Take Tim
It's
Patrick.
a requirement. Yeah.
Let's do it. I think most streams we've drafted whoever's on the cover. It doesn't even matter who it is. They just always end up there.
Yeah, it's the draft whoever's on the cover challenge. Wow.
This
Yeah, I
is
mean, I don't know who else. It's really bad.
well.
Like I would say the Giants receivers here, but you already have Waller. That's too much. Like,
Mhm. Well, which Giants receiver?
yeah, that's the other thing, right? Like, which one are you gonna even take? So,
I think I've been picking Hodgins the most recently, but it's no hard lean.
which quarterback are you targeting now for your number two?
CJ Stroud.
Okay.
If we miss on CJ Stroud, Mac Jones.
When
Yeah,
in
we can
doubt.
take. Yeah, we can take Mac Jones. Just with Ramondre, it's okay.
Um,
82.
yeah, that's fair.
Take two more receivers. Another thing that I've been trying to figure out is just more off the board guys that people aren't drafting, specifically with running backs. Pat Crane was talking about this, where a lot of people are drafting Chase Brown, expecting him to be the backup, and there was a very like the exact same situation last season where I can't even remember the guy's name. Was it Evans? But everyone was drafting the rookie over Samaj Perine,
Oh
and
yeah.
Samaj Perine ended up getting the backup work. And so, what is the value in drafting Chase, like players like Chase Brown, where we're not sure what their role is? Maybe they play, maybe they don't. Because even if they hit, like this guy's getting drafted in most drafts, right?
Yep.
And so if we go down the board a little bit, even to guys like Michael Carter, like just throwing out names, Keontae Ingram, whatever, other backup running backs down here that aren't getting drafted, it creates a little bit more leverage, especially if they end up having a really good week in the playoff weeks.
I mean, Travion Williams is the perfect example, right? Like, some beats even think he's the number two guy,
Mm,
assuming they don't sign someone,
yep.
and that's not and that's assuming Joe Mixon doesn't, have contract issues and force a trade or release or whatever. So, I mean, there's a world where both Travion and Chase Brown's ADP skyrocket in the next month.
Mm-hmm. And two, we mentioned maybe one of those free agent running backs signs with the Bengals. Like it's a decent landing spot,
Yes,
especially if Mixon's suspended and everyone's drafting Chase Brown. Like it might be dead. Are you drafting Chase Brown specifically?
I have been. I've been mixing that with both he and Travion Williams. The other name that you're very close to right now is Latavius, who is just gets in the end zone every year, right? One of the I can't remember the exact record it was, but the number of 10 touchdown seasons is he's on that list. And there are some rumors, if you look at contracts, that he could potentially beat out Damian Harris in that backfield. And that would be a ridiculous example because no one's really taking Latavius Murray.
Yeah, especially what more than 100 pick ADP difference. I guess exactly 100 picks. Yeah, I saw a tweet that was implying that, and it's like it sounds crazy, but then if you look at it a little closer, it's probably not that crazy.
Right. Right. you and I talked about the Tampa Bay backup running backs the last time we did a draft together. Um, the Rams backups too. Like Kyron Williams, I was high on coming out of college, and they used him a bit last year, and then they drafted whatever the guy's name is this year, Zach, whatever the
Zach
fuck
Evans.
Evans, yeah, Evans. So
Mhm.
um, I think people just don't know, so they're not drafting either. So it's another example.
Yeah, and if you're drafting right now, like we talked about trying to predict it, we're never going to get 100% right. But if you can get a couple of these guys right before that news comes out during training camp, then you're
Yes,
going to be very happy with the ADP value you got.
100%.
So we lost CJ Stroud. It's unfortunate, but we're probably going to get Mac Jones.
That's fine.
You like Hunter Renfro?
I don't, but
Nope.
I have been drafting him to get some Vegas correlation when I miss because if you miss out on Jacobson and Devontae, your next best is basically Jacoby Myers. And I like a lot of guys in that range besides Jacoby. So a lot of times I end up with Hunter Renfro as a consolation prize.
As he goes off the board at 190. Man, this is kind of gross because I really wanted to take CJ Stroud and Robert Woods.
Yep.
Um, I'm considering taking Robert Woods still because he'd be my favorite pick here. Pat Crane talked me into him a couple days ago. I was listening to him talk about stuff, but I don't know how weird it is with Schultz. But since we have Derrick Henry, I'm just gonna do it.
I mean, it's another 2-by-1 game stack without the quarterback. So
Mm-hmm.
here you're relying on Fields to just go nuclear in the playoff weeks,
Yeah,
and he's going to outscore any quarterback. And then you have the game stacks that no one else really has.
and this is a little bit unusual for me where I don't have a single week 15, 16, 17 correlation with my top quarterback. Usually I would have like Fields is a little harder to get Atlanta. Like I'd usually get
Mhm.
Tyler Algier if we didn't stop at 4 running backs, but
Right.
drafting a ton of Marquise Brown and then Cleveland's a little bit tough to get later in the draft too.
You can always take Mac Hollins round 18, which I say jokingly, but also I've taken him some.
I've taken Mac. Let's see how much Mac Collins I have. I have
Yeah, that's
2.5% Mac Collins, so he's in there.
okay. Uh, Adam in the chat says, "Did anyone get more than a handful into the Pomeranian on the 4th of July? It filled so quickly. Yeah, it literally filled in less than 24 hours, I think. Chuck, I know you were telling me earlier. I don't think you got any in. I didn't get any in, so I think we're both airballed that contest.
No, by the time I went and looked, it was already filled. I think it filled up in like it was less than like 6 hours because by noon Pacific time it was definitely done.
That's
So
nuts.
yeah, and like I was joking with Brian before the show, like everyone's just rushing to get that $15 in a free rake or $15 discount. Is
I
it
got it, bro.
like is it worth having 50 slows in the Pomeranian? At least in other contests, it's a little bit more meaningful money. Not that it's not meaningful, but it just seems
I just
tough
think 50 slows for your sanity is not worth it.
in $3 contests.
Yeah, man.
You
Because
know,
at some point, you just say, "All right, this is only $3," and you end up picking quicker than you probably would have if it was a higher buy-in,
right? Or you
a
just straight
higher
up, or you
price.
just forget to pick and get auto drafted. Like I had a few. Have you had a bunch of auto picks on your slows, or are you pretty good about queuing up your next guy?
No, I have no life, so I'm making sure to make every pick.
My man. I've had a few auto picks that kind of killed some teams, but we persevere.
Have they just been bad positional picks or guys that you wouldn't take? Because I know like there's been times on like DK or something, and you get auto drafted. It's like I did not need a fourth quarterback.
Bad positioning, yeah. Because like if as long as it's the right
Yeah,
position, I can deal with it. But if it's the wrong position, then it just kind of screws up everything.
totally.
Especially, have you like I have settings for. Let me see if I can find it right here. Like maximum players per position or something like that.
Oh,
Limits, yeah. And I have my QB max set at 2. So even if I have a guy in the queue expecting him to be auto drafted, and then it auto drafts me like the top available tight end, it becomes a disaster. So make sure you guys are
yeah.
paying attention to this if you're drafting a bunch of teams just in case.
Oh, interesting. I honestly did not know this was a feature. So this is a good call.
Yeah, just something you don't want to like because like I said, like I'll have Wandale or I'll have Desmond Ritter queued up as my third QB, but it'll take Wandale because, or not even Wandale, it'll take Hayden Hurst because
Mm,
I hit all the other positional limits. So
yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's smart.
So usually I'd have more playoff correlations in this. I typically have like 5 games of correlation in week 17, but this isn't that bad since my top 3 players all have a game of correlation: Ramondre, Derrick Henry, and Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
So it's not too bad. Week
Yeah, it's not the worst. And I
16.
think if they're going to be builds like this, I would much prefer it to be with a massive upside rushing quarterback as my lead guy.
Mm-hmm. And this is a cool thing that Spike Week added for the weekly winners contest specifically, but it's kind of helpful to break ties in Best Ball Mania too. Just the number of game stacks. So if I take Wandale, I get 5 games of correlation total over the 17 weeks with my guys, and just so it's kind of interesting because like Isaiah Likely 4 games, versus Michael Myers 7. Like, is that enough to
Oh,
break a tie? Maybe.
interesting. Yeah,
For weekly
that is
winners, it's definitely more important, but for here, I
definitely.
think there's some value too.
Oh, that is nice. That's a nice little feature.
Yeah, they're adding a lot of stuff. I'm pretty impressed with them.
Yeah, I mean, 7 games of 0 points from Michael Meyer doesn't really mean much, I guess, though.
No, it does not. Uh, are you not? Are you completely out on Michael Meyer
Yeah, I I
at
don't
the point?
trust. Yeah, I just don't trust that coaching staff to use a rookie tight end properly. Whereas I do trust it for Detroit and Buffalo.
There's a couple guys I'd be interested, like as off the board picks. I think Joshua Palmer probably gets mostly drafted. Mac Hollins, gross. I like Josh Reynolds. Someone talked
Josh
me
Reynolds, yeah,
into Kyle Phillips. Actually, I'm not sure about that one, but
yeah. You took him in a draft that you and I ran. I was like, wow, Chuck under the radar with Kyle Phillips. I like it too, though.
yeah, just trying to find that 18th week lotto pick or 17th week lotto pick. Who would you take from this group of guys, or is there someone else I didn't pick? I know you're high on Allen Robinson too.
Yeah, I like Gage too. I keep talking about Tampa Bay being drafted late, but I think as pure players, Richie
Mm-hmm.
James for correlation, Mac Hollins, and then guys that no one's drafting is probably Gage and Phillips.
Okay.
Greg Dortch too. I think he's being drafted, but I like Greg Dortch because we know that, like likely, he's actually a handcuff positional player outside running back that can actually put up big games.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I really hope that pick got in what I was talking about with my positional stuff. I clicked it, but I don't know if it went through, and it always does this on the last pick. It just kind of freezes up. But I tried to take Richie James. Hopefully, it gave me Richie James. Get that Bengals Kansas City correlation.
Well, we'll never know, or will we know?
Guess we'll find out. Like stream with
How
Chris
do you feel
Pat
about this game
teams.
overall? What
Okay.
happened?
It gave me Luke Musgrave. Well, it's kind of a disaster now, but I literally was just talking about the positional limits and not screwing yourself getting this guy, and I let
Well,
it happen.
here's a real world example, people.
It's not a complete disaster. I did get another Green Bay correlation with Minnesota, so
True.
it could have been worse. Um, I don't hate this team. I mostly got my guys, uh, in all these rounds, basically. Maybe I would have went Charbonnet, but these are basically my guys. So I'm pretty happy with this draft. What do you think about it?
I like it too. I like the way it played out, and I think it's different, right? Like it's differentiated from most people who are stacking. And
Hmm.
yeah, if you take Fields early, I think this is one of the preferred builds, especially if you pair him up with Jefferson at number one.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess another one in the books. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out. You have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I think maybe some people have more questions about the weekly winners contest, so maybe we'll dedicate the next stream or two or a pre-recorded video to that as well because it is pretty different.
Hmm.
But you guys who are watching drive the content. So if there's something you want to see or questions you have, let us know either in the comments or in Discord, and we're happy to steer the content in that direction.
Yep. And just in case you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, go ahead and use our promo code when you sign up. The promo code is Occupy, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100. So deposit 100, get 100 in site credit, gives you 4 entries into the BBM, or you could play a few in the weekly winners, throw in some pick'ems. So just have fun with it. And appreciate you guys for watching. Join the Discord if you want to talk to us about best ball. We love all the conversation. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.
See ya.